watch out for the cicadas. I just got one that got me.
The president moments ago at Joint Base Andrews commenting on the cicadas. Earlier, we told you that the plane for the press corps covering President Biden's trip was actually delayed for hours because of the insects, these gross, massive bugs. President Biden and the First Lady are en route to the UK now. It's the president's first trip abroad. He'll meet with British Foreign Minister Boris Johnson and attend the G7 summit. Then he's on to Brussels to meet with NATO leaders. Finally, he wraps up in Geneva, where he will meet face-to-face with Russian President Vladimir Putin for the first time since becoming president. Joining us now, former U.S. ambassador to the United Kingdom and Sweden, Matthew Barzun. He's also the national finance chair for former President Barack Obama's re-election campaign. And he's the author of the new book entitled The Power of Giving Away Power: How the Best Leaders Learn to Let Go. And I can't wait to talk about that concept of that book. I think it's brilliant, Mr. Ambassador. But first, let's talk about the president's first trip abroad. What do you think the challenges are in front of him to execute in this trip? And what's your gut on what the top priority is?
Yeah, and first of all, Mika, please call me Matthew. And the cicadas are deafening here in Kentucky, so I apologize if the viewers have to pick up on the background. Look, one of your earlier guests talked about hitting the reset button, which I think makes sense given how our allies have been treated in the previous administration. But I actually would hope that President Biden and Prime Minister Johnson would hit a different kind of button, which is kind of the get real button. Because to your point, I mean, they have the climate to deal with. They've got the corporate tax issues to deal with, but right in front of us, this COVID vaccination for the world. And that seems to me an opportunity where these countries can get together and deal with the medical and the logistical, and of course the ethical components and financial to all of this. And that's what I'm hoping for, a full plate. And if they get real and do hard work together, we can get stuff done.
Hey, Matthew, it's Willie Geist. Great to have you on this morning. I'm slightly distracted by your vinyl copy of Johnny Cash's Unchained album. Over your shoulder, the song Rusty Cage, one for the ages. But let's talk about this trip in the state of British-American affairs. How much damage, as you look at it and you talk to people overseas, was done, if you believe there was real damage done to the relationship under the Trump administration, and what should be the job of this president in repairing it?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think 6 days after I arrived in the job in 2013, the special relationship between the U.S. and the U.K. was declared dead on the front page of the biggest newspaper in the country. So we tend to, I think, declare it dead. I think the strength of the friendship between the two countries, we don't do hard things together because we're friends. We are friends because we have done hard things together. So that would be my hope with Biden and Johnson and the rest of the G7, which is do this hard, meaningful work together right now, get real, roll up your sleeves. And then, I mean, friendships, you know it. I mean, look at your wonderful set. Like, if you set out to be friends with someone, that usually doesn't work. But if you do hard work, you make a great show together, you do whatever, friendship emerges. And I think the same is true between countries.
Hey, Matthew, it's Sam Stein. First, let me correct something. It's not friendly around that set. They're vicious, especially to me. So I just want you to know.
Only to you, Sam. Only to you.
Good to know.
That's what I said. Only to me. On the topic of your book, The Power of Giving Up Power, the tagline basically made me think about something very immediate right now, which is the COVID vaccination effort. The administration is now, at this juncture, giving up power, essentially. They are vaccinating the world. They're taking our abundance of supply, or our coming abundance of supply, and saying, no, we can hand it to needy countries. Can you talk about whether you feel like the administration is making long-term gain by doing this, or should they be giving more in terms of vaccination to the globe as a way of sort of creating these types of productive relationships that you're talking about?
Well, I think you just hit on the key, which is productive and relationship. And so the publishers wouldn't let me have a really long title, which is Give Away Power so that you can get it back, so you can give it away again. I mean, that's really how these things work. And I think what we get tricked into often is we think that there's either selflessness or selfishness, and those are the two choices. But what I think we see in the realm of global affairs and in personal affairs is that there's this other option, which is mutual liberation or freedom together. That's the idea of America at its best. That is multilateral cooperation at its best. It's not being selfless. It's not just sort of helping others. It's helping ourselves through helping others.
So, Matt, I love this concept, but I want to know how you can put it into play when you're dealing with a country with authoritarian tendencies or with a history of that. But even more so given your experience in Sweden and the UK and around the world. I mean, what you're talking about is productive diplomacy. It could be the same thing. But what happens when it hits up against a country that doesn't see it the same way?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Sweden. I remember when I was serving over there right before your brother, I met this amazing woman at USAID, and I asked her, I said, why don't we do more coordination of foreign aid? And she said, yes, coordination. Here's the thing, Matthew. Everybody loves coordination, and no one likes to be coordinated. And that really struck me as true. And so no one likes to be told what to do. And if we find ourselves as a country doing that, we can expect the lack of engagement that will follow. I guess to your really hard question about authoritarian regimes, I think we can start. We have lost these habits of interdependence with one another here in America, overseas, and we should start just with with our friends and allies, really practice this, these habits of interdependence, of making freedom together. And COVID gives us such a good opportunity to do that hard work together. And that setting that pattern and that tone among friends and allies can go a long way. It's an incredibly attractive force. And we don't do enough of it.
The book is The Power of Giving Away Power, How the Best Leaders Learn to Let Go. And Matthew Barzun, thank you so much. Your example of how COVID could be the vehicle is a great one. Thanks for coming on the show this morning.